Hi everyone, welcome to Draftscapes. I'm Chris Tuccio. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to draw conifers for your landscape design plans. These are your spruces, your cedars, your pines that'll add a lot of seasonal and winter interest for your landscape designs. Stick around. Hi everyone, so in previous videos we looked at how to draw ornamental deciduous shade trees, and typically we drew these in a basic or more advanced level, but this video I want to focus more on conifers, your evergreen varieties that'll add a lot of seasonal and winter interest for your landscape design plans. These will look good in groupings or as standalone elements in different garden beds. So without further ado, we'll gather our drafting supplies, throw the camera up in the air, and get started. Okay, so here we are set up with our drafting board. I have my circle template again, I have my lead holder pencil, and I have two size multi-liners or drafting pens. One is a 1.0, another is a 0.5. Those are the only two I'll need today. And we're going to just start the same way that we start most of the types of tree drawing exercises. We're just going to draw our guides, and so again, because of the video, I'm going to be using a larger 3-inch circle, but at home you can typically use something as a 2-inch. That's probably be a nice smaller size for you to get comfortable drafting these. So we're going to just draw 5 in a row. So I'm just going to draw 5 and then move down. I'm using an H hardness lead in my pencil, so it's a little lighter. You might not see it as prevalent on the screen, but I typically like using this when drafting because it provides me a nice hard guide to keep in line with while still not being too dark that you can read through it on the plan view. Okay, and I'll just fit there with the 5. Okay, perfect. So we have our 5 guides. I'm going to put my circle template away, to put my lead holder away, and we're going to start with our 1.0 Copic pen or any sort of drafting pen that you have. As always, I'm going to list in the video description the different types of drafting materials that I'm using. I'm going to start on the right-hand side because I'm working as a lefty from right to left. If you're a righty, just simply work left to right. That way you don't smudge over anything that you drew. Okay, so for conifers, we're going to start with a very basic shape and outline for a conifer, and we're going to use this idea of a reverse loop or a reverse M. So basically we're drawing a W along the guide, something like that. And we're going to keep doing that several times around the edge, and then every now and then we'll follow the edge a little bit, and then we'll do that again. And it doesn't matter if you work counterclockwise or clockwise, and so you'll keep doing that, and it goes in and out. So you have these W's, and they go in and out and around the circle. Okay, like so. Some loops are larger, some are smaller, and they're just reverse loops. Some go into the actual canopy, some extend beyond. They're not too dramatic, but they do offer a little bit of difference in the overall edge of the canopy. We're going to keep working our way around. Like so. Okay, and so now we have sort of just a basic outline of our tree. And so now, with a dot in the center, we'll put our 1.0 away. We'll take out our 0.5. And one thing I didn't mention that I have with me that I'm going to be using is my drafting triangle. Okay, so I have my drafting triangle, and I'm basically just going to be making a branching structure with my pen from the center to the edge of the canopy. I'm not going to go beyond the canopy. And I'm going to do that actually in many different repetitions. So I'm going to do that a number of times, going around the canopy. Okay, and they don't have to be even. And I don't have to do it all the way around concentrically. I could do it in little groupings. Do something like this. Okay, so now we have just a basic shape for a conifer tree. So this is our basic conifer. I'm going to make sure it's on there. I'll write it below. This is our basic form. Okay, so that's step one. Okay, so I'm going to switch over again. I'm going to put down the 0.5. I'm going to pick up the 1.0. Okay, now I'm going to do the next guide, and this is our next basic shape, and this is the starburst. I like to think of this as more of like a starburst symbol, because we're going to do very similar types of graphic representation as we did with this, with the loops, but we're really going to be much more dramatic with it. So I'm going to use these larger loops as if it's sort of a sun. Think of it, I like to think of it as a starburst. You could think of it as a sun. When you get close to the edge there, you just have to watch out. So you have these very dramatic little whimsical outcroppings from the edge, as if it's a star. And so I'm going maybe 1, 2, 3 different loops and then a big dramatic flare, 1, 2, 3. But it doesn't have to be a standard repetition. You can make it look randomized. It's better when you're drafting these kind of trees that you make it look more random, makes it look more natural. And work your way all the way around. Okay, so that gives you the overall shape of the starburst. And now, if you wanted to, you could do the exact same type of branching. So that's also available to you with doing this. But we're actually going to come around, we're going to do a similar type of starburst. We're going to do the same kind of graphic, but we're going to do it around the edge. As if, again, if you remember from the previous videos, as if the sun is hitting in this direction. So the sun is where my pen is. Okay, so it's shining in this general area, meaning that we're going to have shade around here and a little shade up here. And so we're going to texture that a little more. Okay, so we're going to essentially be doing something like this. Okay, little M's or N's, little loops. I like this type of symbol for something like an Atlas cedar or more fastigiate varieties. I think they look really nice in groupings. Very dramatic. They're also very nice for little standalone segments as well. Okay, so that is our starburst variety. That's right, starburst. Okay, so now we're going to do a couple variations off of those two main ones. Okay, so the next one is essentially very similar to this, except we're going to be having breaks or stops in the actual starburst outline. So we're going to do a couple loops and then we're going to stop completely and follow the guide and then do a couple more. So it breaks it up. It's a little less in your face as a graphic symbol. I think it looks a little more modern, a little more refined. So we're going to do something like that and then we're just going to stop and we're going to go to another area. Okay, something like that. And we're going to work our way around. Okay, so notice that we're not doing all the way around. We're not being so heavy-handed. Okay, something like that. And then you can add in some areas in between. And then same thing, we'll come back and we'll do the same type of texturing that we did before. And this time we can do A little less heavy-handed again. These are very wide loops. I'm just coming in with a little smaller, make it look a little more compact maybe. Some dots in there, or stipples. Okay, something like that. And so, you know, very similar, but much nicer for areas where this specific specimen that you're specifying for your plan isn't really a very important tree in the grouping, but you still want to make sure that it looks adequate and accurate to the plant that you're specifying. Whereas the common starburst, very impactful type of design component, when it's rendered or colored, can look very dramatic all by itself. This one not so much. So this is just the Starburst 2. Okay, and so now we're going to take the basic one and we're going to do one more variation of the basic. For this one, we're going to follow the same procedure that we did before. So we're going to be less dramatic, even less dramatic than we were with the Starburst number 2. And we're going to come around and we're going to do the basic variety again. Now, when you're doing these, it's very important, you know, you might notice as I'm doing them, I want the loops to be as close to perpendicular to the guide as I can. So it's very difficult to see, but you'll notice that the actual way that the loop hits this line, the guide that I drew, it doesn't change where the guide is. It's always 90 degrees. So the loop is going like this, and like this. It's never sort of following the edge of the circle. It's always perpendicular to the edge. And when you get to practicing these, you'll get kind of quick at doing them pretty easy. Okay, so we have our outline for the basic number 2. And now instead of doing the branches, I'm going to come around and I'm going to do these little polygons and circles and stipples. And you may notice that this looks very similar to what we've seen before with ornamental deciduous, and it is. It's very similar to how we textured our ornamental deciduous trees. The main difference is these reverse loops provide us a more look of an evergreen or a pine. It provides a needle-like appearance as these little outcroppings show. So we're just going to texture that as well. And with all of these, it's as if the sun is coming and hitting them over the top, so we get most of the shade on the bottom. Okay, so that is our basic number 2. Okay, and then lastly, for our last one, what we're going to do is just a really fun one that a lot of people should just know and practice, and I call it my Christmas tree. And basically, we're going to reverse all of the different loops that we did. This is much more cartoonish. I don't like it as much for nice, refined plans, but it does have its time and place, and you should know how to do it. And so, instead of the reverse loops, instead of the W's, we're going to be making M's. Okay, so like that. Okay, we're going to come all the way around like such. And you can see as I'm doing it, you can see how it can look somewhat cartoonish when you're drafting it, which is understandable, it does. But it's a cute little symbol that you should know how to draw, and it does have its time and place. If it's a small little garden bed, where you want it to look a little more, child-friendly. You might do something like this. And so now, okay, if that's my outer edge, it's much softer. It's not as needle-like, more broadleaf evergreen type of symbol. I'm actually going to do a concentric circle of that same technique. Now, you can reach for your guide. Let's say I had my guide here. I could reach for my guide and sort of draw a concentric circle here. Just to get and indicate, I'm going to go one small, actually I'll use this one, so I'll use the 1 inch. Just to indicate where that might be, or you can just do it by eye, but I'm just going to use the guide. And then you're just going to do the same thing. So you're going to come around here. Okay, and we'll do it one more time. Okay, I'll use an even smaller one. Okay. And we'll do our last little top of our Christmas tree. Okay, and then a little dot in the center. And then what you can do, okay, so this is our little Christmas tree. What we can do, if we wanted to add a little more texture, we could take our 0.5, okay, and we can actually stipple in the areas. So it would be as if we have a little shade coming from top to bottom, all the way down. We do that all the way around. You can make a nice dramatic effect for this type of tree. With stippling, it's all about keeping your pen 90 degrees to the paper and making the little dots in areas of emphasis and having a gradient from heavy concentration of dots to lower concentration of dots, and to try and avoid little chicken scratch lines. Okay, and we'll add a couple up top. Make it look a little more natural. Okay, and that is our Christmas tree symbol. Okay, so for conifers, we have essentially 5 different types of varieties for landscape design plants. Any one of them can be used for a whole host of different types of plant species in your design. They all have their place within a plan. So, practice all of these, see what works for you, see what modifications or amendments you might want to make to any one of them, and you'll find that they can be very useful when you want to show more winter interest in your plan views. Okay? So thanks for stopping by. I'll see you at the next video.